very similar to shit, and shit that got placed on them to change their behavior. I'm trying to remember, man. I keep having my fucking flow of consciousness fucked with as I try to talk. I had something very similar placed on. I'm trying to fucking. And say, from what I understand, when I was about 16 years old, it's part of the curse that got placed on me to make my life really, really difficult. To make me a sacrifice. Baron Samedi placed hooded, very dark complexion, black, hooded reptilian entities on my crown chakra to keep me under heavy curses. And blocked me. I remember the day when he sucked out my main consciousness, which is right here, put me under, from what I saw in the astral plane, an armored tank that's designed to divest you of all your blessings and spiritual powers. And he did something where he used an entity attachment that harbored my spiritual powers that basically gave it out to people, while also setting it up for all of my blessings to be taken away from me. But unlike the recent people who, through his trajectory from my life, set me up to where I have nothing, he at least made sure that the floor never fell from under me, and I always had something to fall back on. He fucked up my consciousness really, really, really fucking bad. But I had spiritual protection coming from my higher to higher selves, who were white women. Again, it goes back to my soul matrix, and in the astral plane, I present as white because of one of my past lives. I remember there was a song I used to hear from a singer from American Idol called I Could. And it was from a biracial singer. I think it could be this woman here. I would hear it sporadically. And when I would try to look it up at times, I could not find it. And there were times where I could find it. Now, from what I understand, that's coming from a timeline where I would have been a successful TV presenter. In a lot of the timelines where Billy Baille, Baron Samedi wasn't around, and instead Kate was around, I would have been very, very, and even if she wasn't, I would have been very, very, very successful in media. And I would have gotten somewhere in television had I gone to De La Salle. That's why I keep, expounding on how De La Salle versus Xavier Prep was that primordial fork in the road that determined the trajectory and the path of my life. Like I said before, and I'll say it again, I shouldn't be in this situation, especially in the latter part of my life where I was supposed to have great blessings coming to me back in 2016, and I got a small modicum of them where I won a lawsuit and won $2,000, money I hadn't seen in years, all due to this curse. It is what it is. I used to do very, very well. Very, very well. Because here's the thing. Extremely well. And then when I moved to Miracle Mile, I remember, again, something trying to pull me into the roach realm. I started seeing giant cockroaches. I was even told. I remember one day having a vision, and I'll show you the article, in which I saw a door, my bathroom, my kitchen door, with an exit sign at the top, a neon red light, and arrow signs that were neon red pointing in. And I was told that Satan was actually so-called protecting me or keeping me from seeing my future, really. Or supposedly protecting me from seeing it, because had I seen what was really going on, which was a standing room only roach realm, roach motel hell realm, in which my parents were in, I would have instantly dove in there and took my parents out. I remember my kitchen had an eerie black glow coming from it, even though everything was dark, turned off. Like usually I would have the kitchen light on. I saw like a white circle there. That's, from what I understand, supposed to mean high level mind control, which is, that's why they keep trying to give my screwdriver and shit and parts of my consciousness and soul consciousness to these people for mind control and to inhibit you from being able to contact ancestors on the other side if you were to die from this curse, which happens. And also to separate you, which you have in your soul consciousness. You have your ancestors in your consciousness to separate you from your ancestors. Anyways, I was told, had I seen my parents, I would have instantly pulled them out. But that was to be their future fate. And I'm not going to tolerate that shit. As a matter of fact, I spoke to my parents in that timeline. They died. And they told me that they died in that timeline. They got taken out of their bodies by the people who took over, by the person who took over my body. I got an Ashley Abel or Hampstead. They died on July the 20th. July or June the 20th, 2023. And ever since then, they've been placed in roach motel hell realms and hellish realms ever since. And that makes me cry to know that that's the trajectory for my fucking parents' life, and they don't deserve it. They were good fucking people, and still are good fucking people. That's why I got a problem with God making this shit happen. And I got to fucking find out, get clarity on that shit. That's just fucked up to do to somebody. That's fucked up to do to somebody, just to steal their spiritual powers and abilities, which is what, as I'm about to explain, Billy Baille and Toliver, Baron Samedi, they, the more I think of it, they remind me of like used car salesmen that like to swindle people, do to people. They take people with strong spiritual powers and abilities.
The governor just signed something yesterday that in Santa Monica, it is now illegal to sleep on the street.
All right. Okay,
so you need to call somebody, and it's criminal.
All right, man. You have a nice day. Slap the shit out you. She was saying that because she heard my speeches. But as I was saying before, if you have strong spiritual powers and abilities, like what I had and what I still do have, because I own it, nobody can take what's mine away from me. They will try to rape you of it. And this is why I want to talk about what they do, what he does. Now, from what I understand, the way those two operate is, I'm going to tell you the origin story of Baron Samedi. Unlike that Topa saying the word day, all you need is black tourmaline to get rid of her ass. Or frankincense. That ain't going to work on Billy Baille. That's not going to work on Baron Samedi. You can even know his real name. That's not going to work on him because he's an actual living person. He existed. they have to craft Santa word day unto somebody or an entity to give her meat. They tried doing that shit with me, and I'm like, that's not part of my, get that shit out of my face. It ain't part of my culture. It ain't no African. It ain't European. I ain't fucking with it. It ain't Asian. I'm not fucking with it. That ain't my shit. Get that shit away from me. I look down on that shit. Oshun exist. Like I said before, they have to put Santa Word Day, which is an extension of the Mexican Oversoul consciousness, on Lord Guadalupe, which is the Virgin Mary, who was originally black, and ain't got nothing to do with that. Again, if you want to destroy that Topa, because her followers, from what I've seen, is what makes her, all you have to do is disconnect her from Lord Guadalupe, from the Virgin Mary, or better yet, do soul rescue, just like with Jesus Christ, or Yahshua ben Pandera, whose real name, I'm not sure if I should reveal it right now. You can use 125 hertz, 1185 hertz, to pull somebody out of hell realms, and 156 hertz to release somebody from spirit jars. Entities like Jesus and the Virgin Mary are like mainstays as entity attachments in people's consciousness, because it goes back to the demiurge. I believe that the original people, I know for a fact, were sacrifices. So they're set as, I don't want to say topas, but as entity attachments meant to connect you with the role that they're supposed to serve, as I don't want to say creation or aspect of, but as emissaries. That's the word in which I'm looking for the demiurge. As, I want to say puppets is more accurate. You can also get rid of her followers. Like if she's trying to so-called protect you, all you need to do is get rid of her followers, and she has nothing. You can do the same thing to Baron Samedi and all of them, who are covered by God, unlike her, Oshun, and you get fucked up bad. Well, not fucked up, but you can't do it to them. Just like you can't really fuck with the Illuminati, because they're directly under the demiurge, and they make the sacrifices, the proper sacrifices to Baal, to Moloch, for the demiurge. That's why they got permission to do the evil shit that they do, and that's how they get away with it. People think that we live in the moral realm, in the material realm, and we don't. We live in hell. There was a book I used to read back in the day called The Diary of Paul Dynock, in which talks about how one day our realm, the material realm, is going to transcend into the realm of light, the source, and how everybody is going to be on the same wavelength, just like you see in Asian societies. And the reason being is because, this is why everybody is congruous for the most part in Asian societies. It's because of their belief system, which is energy, frequency, and vibration. And they know that to be the truth, the primordial truth of reality, the building blocks for reality. And I'm going to say this as an aside. One thing I learned during this curse, I hear a lot of brothers and sisters, my people, talk about 9 ether hair and us being the building blocks for life, for reality. And that is very true. Our frequency as Black people actually resonates with the building blocks for life. Carbon, that's actually very accurate, as I've learned during this curse. I'm trying to think of the frequency, but I'm not going to go into too much details now. I'm going to say this right now. White people vibrate at 6,000 hertz. They do, in fact, come from the fake light. They don't come from... I believe it's partially true for the Asians as well. The lighter your skin, the more you don't really come from the real light. You know, I've also learned a lot about the fake sun versus the real sun. And the fake sun is actually, the real sun is actually in the inner earth, and it's more alive. Just like when you're in the higher 3D, which is the more physical realm of the 3D, you're more alive. Things look more alive, more vivid. Black people come from the real sun. Not from the real sun, but from the real light. And I'm trying to make sense of it. If it's a source light or if it's the light of the material realm. I can't make sense of it. I'm trying to. I think it's the light of the material realm. Everybody comes, well, except for Mexicans, everybody comes from the source. My soul, like for instance, I've had many different past lives. Most of them were lived in Southeast Asia. And one of them, I was a very powerful demon by the name of TH. And I ended up becoming a demon and ended up in the hell realm because I was showing off my spiritual powers. It's something about having to suppress it and, it's some lesson as well as learning forgiveness of some bullshit in many of my past and current lives. And like I said before, one of them, I was white. So I'm trying to figure out if it's the light of the source or if it's the material realm light. But black people come from the true light. The sun we have, I've also learned too that there's truth to the firmament story. Maybe more so in the astral plane. I know for a fact that in the astral plane that our planets are alive. And that they're living beings. And from what I understand with the firmament, you got the when you look at the stars at night, when you look at the sky, it reminds me a lot of the ocean in so many ways. I'm trying to call on my memory and knowledge of things, but, from what I understand, if, scientists or astronauts try to go beyond a certain boundary in space, they say it's like reaching a it's like hitting a brick wall. It could be a parallel universe. You think about bubble theory. I'm trying to put it together. So if I sound all fucked up in the head, just bear with me. Just bear with me. I think at a certain level, you're not supposed to reach it. I gotta remember. I got evil shit pouring. No. This shit gotta fucking end. I don't. This shit, like, it expands your consciousness to where you could have shit come in and physically feel shit fucking with you. It puts it into the astral plane. I'm just trying to remember. They got bioluminescent water, which exemplifies that. But this is what I wanted to say. When you look at the molecules within us, it looks just like the universe. Here, I'll show you.
Our DNA holds a message. I went into one of the oldest and most mysterious spiritual texts, the Sefer Yetzirah, and it's only been translated into English once. Every single alphabet that has ever been known to exist has always had a mysterious number linked to the letter that it represents. When I took the ancient alphabets and I replaced the elements of the DNA with those alphabets, the DNA began to read as you read letters in a sentence in the page upon a book. When we replaced those letters with a periodic table and we began reading the text, the very first sentence in every strand of DNA literally says the words, God eternal within the body.
Guy who said that when you spell out DNA, it spells God. And that's what I'm talking about, where they talk about innerverse and they talk about outerverse and how we're all connected to God and connected to everything. The atom, for instance, the human atom looks like Uranus. It looks like Saturn. And now that I think about it, there was a book called The Rainmakers of Saturn, in which there was a NASA scientist who, his name was Norm Berggren. And it's funny, too, because I grew up in New Orleans East, not that far from a NASA plant, where he talked about seeing 7-foot tall black aliens that looked exactly like me. Me and, my black subscribers out there that piloted motherships that created the rings of Saturn, that created the rings of Uranus. Here, I'll go ahead and show you the interview.
Okay, but if there are craft, there are beings.
Okay, people have asked me about, I call them vehicles, okay?
Right.
Now, I did not call them objects. That was too neuter for me.
Okay.
I had a Stanford professor said you ought to call them objects. No. They have all of the qualities of a vehicle. Mm-hmm. They can move. They're just like a missile or anything like that. So that much we can say about them, for sure.
Okay.
So I'm calling it a vehicle.
Okay.
Okay, somebody comes along and says, well, now where would you manufacture one that's 2.5 Earth lengths long? And that's a hard question to answer.
So are you not positing the idea that those vehicles contain, beings who are, maybe like us?
Yeah, I only go along with government images. And if you want to know about people kind of thing, there is the ship that picked up the Voyager capsule at Alameda Naval Shipyard, and they have a picture there of I think it's the Apollo flight that Buzz and Neil were on. But anyway, there is one image there that shows black people getting off.
So people with dark skin getting off.
Not dark, black.
Black skin.
Really black. Yeah.
Were they tall?
Yes.
Very tall?
Yeah.
How tall? Do you know?
Well, they got out the doorway. I don't know how high that is, but
Well, what?
they say 7 feet would be probably a conservative estimate.
Have you heard about Clark McClellan's statement about that?
No,
Oh, you haven't?
no,
Have you ever been in touch with him?
no.
No?
There is one image there that shows black people getting off.
So people with dark skin getting off.
Not dark, black.
Black skin.
Really black. Yeah.
Were they tall?
Yes.
Very tall?
Yeah.
How tall? Do you know?
Well, they got out the doorway. I don't know how high that is, but
Well, what?
they say 7 feet would be probably a conservative estimate.
He wrote a book that came out in 1997 called The Rainmakers of Saturn, and I remember my parents talking about it. I remember back in the day, too, they used to talk about this other brother. He supposedly had a, supposed cult, and they brought him down with tax evasion. I'm trying to think of that man's name. But he was a black nationalist. Very, very intelligent man. And it wasn't York. I'm trying to think of that brother's name, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it was something York. No, it wasn't York. Let me see what it was. It was Yahweh ben Yahweh, but it was something else. Very intelligent man. And a lot of what he would talk about, I'm starting to see, as part of this curse is actual truth. I've been shown a lot of things like things that make up the human body, the Erasmus, which is actually an entity attachment that connects you to life. And it looks like a staff. And we all have it. And we all have different forms of it. I feel something pulling at my ass right now. I want to get back to the way in which I used to be, man, and get back to lecturing and teaching like I used to. Because I don't like this shit. I don't like being a shell of myself, getting on fucking YouTube, doing fucking terror videos, sounding all fucking, because I got so much. This shit gotta fucking end. This shit, I gotta find out these fucking people and get their asses. Because this is some evil ass shit to put on somebody. To feed off of somebody that's already down. And again, it's a bunch of fucking wet bucks. And I keep getting told that in the spirit world, including by Baron Samedi, That's why I reached out to a voodoo worker, who a spiritualist, to see what the truth is and parse through the truth. Because like I said, I actually did an article on it. I saw wet bucks stealing our voodoo, which is black ancestral magic, just like Santeria is. And I don't want that shit going down. But I also feel like I have a duty to tell y'all the truth about what's going on. Now, Baron Samedi, from what I understand, as well as his highest self, Don Toliver, I'm going to tell you the truth about gods, from He-K to all of them. Just like us human beings, we all have different aspects of ourselves. And with that being said, you got good aspects, including entity attachments that make you who you are. You know, I've seen that in the astral plane with myself because of this, but certain things should not be, nobody should be broken down to that core. Now, Baron Samedi, from what I understand, when he was alive, owned the supermarket. He was actually a living person. They've been telling me the name of him and to put it out. This some evil ass shit. I ain't taking no directives from that evil ass shit. You know, from what I understand, the people, they're supposed to be under directly Satan themselves and given permission to do. I'm going to explain what's going on. Now, from what I understand, Baron Samedi, when he was alive, was big into seeing prostitutes. Now, I'm going to say something right now. From my experience, he's big on imposing the curse of prostitution, especially on educated women who he curses and sacrifices. He always made sure I had some money, though. I remember at one point I had $3,000 in my checking account, but I hated it. Didn't like it, but my consciousness was fucked up to where I went along with it. And before, let me go ahead and talk about the realm where he places you in.
We don't care about that. We just want you to a parallel universe. It's everywhere. Bigger deals are going on.
Like I was saying before, man, get away from me, please.
Honey.
Please. I know you're pissed off about some of the stuff that I say. That's just...
No one cares about the podcast anymore. Those are on blast. You care about the 13 broken letters? Or the fact that I saw the Terry Featherstone for the past 5 times.
All right, so as I was talking about...
I'm followed by the feds.
So as
DOD, Department of Defense. And there's a huge federal investigation going on. I was under witness protection and was outed.
Let me try to... These
Okay,
motherfuckers, they big on fucking with your energy. So as I was saying before,
the county's about to be illegal.
here's what's going on.
Do you want funding or not? I'm trying to help you. Do not piss me off.
So as I was saying before...
You're messing with Venice. I will shut you down. Do not piss me off.
So as I was saying before, here's how your boy works. Let me go ahead and try to he actually existed. He was actually a living person.
I got gang stalking illegal.
He was actually a living person.
I run with Shoreline Crip.
Now that's
MS-13,
schizophrenia.
Department of Defense, and I have security detail all over. They pay.
Now, as I was saying before,
gang stalking is out. I'm sorry, some people lost some jobs. The city is cleaned out for a
as
reason.
I was saying before, Billy Baron Samedi actually existed. I know his real name, but like I said, I'm not trying to say it because I don't want our shit to get stolen. Our ancestral black magic. I don't want that to happen. Our ancestral collective African magic. Santeria and voodoo is actually part of our ancestry, just like ancient Cometian magic, spirituality. Like, for instance, one thing I wanted to mention is that the Illuminati actually takes a lot, the Illuminati actually takes a lot of their spiritual powers, spiritual powers. I'm trying not to fucking worry about this motherfucker here.
Hold on.
Our spiritual powers, they actually take their spiritual powers from our Egyptian ancestors.
I bend metal by looking at it.
And
You put me on blast on YouTube
I believe
and
through
all
the
of that.
demiurge, they're able to block them from getting their shit back.
Pissing me off.
But you can use 1248 hertz frequency along with 1714 hertz as well as 1715 hertz to get their shit
Can't
back.
sleep on the street in Santa
Now,
Monica.
with that being said, Baron Samedi, from what I understand, used to see prostitutes.
That doesn't help your situation.
And I'm
as
not
of
really
today.
sure. I'm trying to get clarification on this, but I believe that he would abused them back in the day. Like I said before, that's why he's really big on imposing the curse of prostitution on women that he sacrifices.
I ended up 13 girls.
Like I said before, when I was growing up, I grew up in a middle-class environment in New Orleans East. I attended Xavier Prep, which couldn't fucking stand. That was that primordial fork in the road that really fucked up my life.
Park is shut down. Where are you gonna go? It's real shit. We're not lying to you. It hit the news. It was signed yesterday in the bill.
Just ignore them fucking crackheads. Anyways, as I was saying before, that's why you don't do crackheads.
Call the case manager.
But as I was saying before,
how's that helping
I'm gonna say something right now. Despite my looks, I don't do no drugs. I can't do that shit. Don't fuck with it. I don't drink. Our ancient Egyptian ancestors actually created beer, which they called mead, to transcend, by the way. I don't fuck around with drugs, none of that. The shit that I'm going through, that's a certified person. It's something evil. A lot of people, they misjudge me and they look at my facial features and they automatically assume, oh, she on some shit, but I don't do anything. I don't touch anything. Very, very straight. And that's because of what I got. Now, anyways, with that being said, from what I understand, Baron Samedi, when he died, and I'm going to tell you the truth about, I know his real name, but I don't want to say it because, again, it's too many ramifications. It could have a major impact. Ilegua. And what happened to him is extremely fucking sad.
You're hanging out.
Now, with that being said,
welcome to the club. Get on the phone.
Baron Samedi, from what I understand, ended up in the living furniture realm.
Go after Sir.
Which is where people, your consciousness still lives in your body. And I actually saw it at the beginning of this curse.
There's a hallucinogen put in the water.
They put you. They put you.
Marina Del Rey is a 3D printer that makes a simulated world.
They put you into a realm where it actually reminds me of the Cologne Cathedral, which has a few of those people, or I believe is built of those people in Germany. Here, you can see it right here. Furniture that your boy Milton in The Devil's Advocate had
3 bodies out of 13 in the wetlands
is a very good example of what I've of living furniture.
Sweetie, where are you going?
That was The Devil in The Devil's Advocate, and that was actually one of my favorite movies. It inspired me back when I was a kid, and back when I had a lot of prospects in life to want to become a lawyer when I got older. But again, Billy Baille, Baron Samedi fucked up my consciousness really, really fucking bad. To the point where, I have a broadcaster's voice. I couldn't do that. I interned at NECN. Back in the day, I used to look like this.
Listen to this.
My consciousness was fucked up. I couldn't do that. And I kept, I worked for a little bit. I actually got paid for it. I interned for City Business newspaper back in 2001 in New Orleans. So I had a great future, but I couldn't get anywhere because my consciousness got fucked up.
And sleeping in public.
Now, with that being said, he got placed into a living furniture hell realm where your consciousness is in your body.
Or 5278, you want to come?
Let's see.
Listen to the news, get on the phone with the case manager.
Where he got placed into a living furniture realm. And basically his consciousness was trapped in his head, and he knew what was going on, but he couldn't do anything. And that's one of the worst hell realms to be in. There was actually an article I used to read on Reddit that talked about that, where they had a young man who looked a lot like I did in my past life. One of my brothers, one of my cousins from that Swedish past life actually sometimes comes through to try to help me out. I first saw him when I was working the circ desk at the University of New Orleans back in 2001. I saw him appear very, quickly. He said hi, and it was like in and out of reality. Like he was physical, and then he would disappear. And, I was told he's one of my past life ancestors that actually looks out, just like, and it hurts me to talk about this, my poor baby brother Brian, who passed away in 2012. And to go to show you how fucked up this curse is, a demon by the name of Theriel, which was to become my father in the future due to this curse. And I'll show you Theriel surrounding my brother going back to when he was attending Crescent Academy in New Orleans, a special school. They put my poor brother, from what I learned during this curse, my dad, who was a patrolman, he was a police officer in New Orleans. When my brother committed suicide due to having this entity around him, telling him to do bad things, you can see how fucked up this entity's consciousness is, meaning because of this curse, his consciousness got fucked up. Like, I'll never forget when I was in jail, I used to hear my father in the astral plane, his consciousness getting fucked with, because they do something to open up your consciousness where you could be, feel and access what's going on in the spirit plane. And they used to turn him into, I don't want a fajay, a gay. They used to, fuck with his head, and I remember hearing them derisively calling him Holiday Heart, try to make, fuck up his consciousness to make him gay. And I remember my dad saying over and over again, like a robot, I'm not a gay man. I'm not a gay man. Something got to be done with this curse, man, because it takes control of your consciousness and steals your shit and modifies it so you can't call your ancestors on the other side when you end up in these people hell realms. And they take your entity attachments of God and all of that and connect it to them. That's why I'm trying to figure out if it's one of these motherfuckers. And, look at their timelines and see who it's directed to. Again, you can use 694 hertz, 649 hertz, 322 hertz for discernment. As I was saying before, I remember I was told that after my brother, because of this entity around him, it's a lot of tragedy surrounding this curse. And, I remember when these people came to me in 2014, 2015 with a soul contract, and I refused, and I said, I ain't signing shit. I remember they shot a bullet into my forehead where my third eye is, which means opening you up or using your dirt, setting it up for your third eye to be used as a portal to whatever realm they want to sacrifice you to. Whenever somebody shoots you in the forehead in the astral plane, that's what they're setting you up to. The day my brother Brian died, you can see him here. I remember I was told that my poor father was waiting outside in his patrol car, and he saw all the policemen there, masked, investigating the shooting. And I believe it was our childhood home here. So he got into my dad's patrol car, and he kept saying that my dad had a wild look in his eyes. He transported my brother to the police station where he locked him up in the cell and started raping him. And that's because my father was no longer my father. He had become Dariel due to this curse. And I'm not going to have that shit. I'm not going to let that happen to my family. I'm not going to let that fate befall me or my family. And looking back on it now, man, I wish I would have taken measures. Probably because of trauma I didn't. To really clamping down on this shit and do something about it. I remember when them roach attachments first got into my consciousness, and I kept trying to get rid of that shit and get that shit out. I was playing 6,000 hertz frequency, which works to repel wet bugs. And, doing everything I could to get rid of it. I was playing Zakaus, and I couldn't get rid of it. And now, it feels like it's too late. It seems like it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. It just seems like it's just gotten worse and worse and worse, where it just seems like when I try to fight it off or escape it, more shit just compounds on me. If I try to get something back, I'm compounded with entity attachments upon entity attachments, blocking me from getting my own shit back from shit that's a part of my motherfucking body. Like, I can't get over the audacity of it. To rip something from somebody's body and feel entitled to use it and to steal it. How would these entities or so-called gods and goddesses like it if I was to do the same to motherfucking them? That's why I dropped these docs out there. That's why I put out Billy Baille, Baron Samedi's docs. And I'll keep doing it until I get my shit back. And until my life, my family is stable. In that timeline, from what I understand it now, they're going through hell. And both of my parents died. They're no longer in their bodies. They got taken out June the 20th or July the 20th, 2023. I remember when they were doing weird shit with them in the astral plane. Like I remember when I was in jail, I could tell my parents and my brothers were astral projecting. And I remember they had a Native American guy when they were lured down there using an entity attachment. I'm going to say this right now. Don't let motherfuckers get your soul pieces, because when the motherfucker gets enough of your soul piece, they can pull you into their realm. And basically lured my parents into a Roach Motel hell realm and told my parents, a literal Roach Motel hell realm, where you have giant cockroaches, some of which were former humans, as well as small, feed off of you. And they're built and they look like black beetles, which makes me think of the sarcophagus in ancient Kemet, but which they bury people in. They call it the Roach realm. Many Hispanic Mexicans are familiar with it. It's a very evil fucking realm. I remember they had, when I was in jail, a young man that died in 1981 due to a jealous wet bug, putting a curse on him. He was Mexican as well, or Hispanic. And his sister, went to a tarot reader 20 years later to find out what's going on with her brother on the other side. I was very connected with my brother. That's how I knew what was going on with him. And Kate went over and helped him. Anyways, my brother, they found out, she found out what was going on with her brother, that he was inside of a roach in its acid, where his consciousness was being fucked with. You know, and he was just, you know, like I saw with my father, being allowed to repeat a certain word over and over again. It was usually something nasty and perverted. You know, one thing I learned is that roaches, I believe, control the consciousness in the universe of things. That's just an aside fact. Anyways, they went and tried to poll. She went and did a soul rescue on her brother. All you need is 125 hertz frequency, 1185 hertz, to free somebody from hell realms. 156 hertz can be used to free people from spirit jars. So that's a very good frequency to know to free somebody from spirit jars. I believe 1555 hertz can work on He-Cade, because of the shit that I'm dealing with. Now, anyways, with that being said, my poor dad, you know, from what I understand, was going to end up being stuck in hell realms.
Go inside, because you're a gang stalker, and I know. I can walk into Death Row Records, and
It's
they
crazy
know me.
mother.
If one more person says, Usher,
Yeah, so anyways, with that being said,
fine, let's see what I can pull. Let's see. Your father has PTSD.
nutty ass motherfucker. But anyways, with that being said, as I was saying before,
I'm in a hotel. I have a right to have not people screaming and yelling.
this motherfucker getting paid for by the state. So anyways, as I was saying before,
Management's not here. I got it. Don't worry.
this crackhead's getting all uppity. Anyways, as I was saying before,
Who is this? I didn't know we lived in Trenton.
I'll say this right now. If I was half the woman I used to be when I lived on the PCH, I used to fuck up a lot of people. Sacrificed a lot of motherfuckers. Really, I didn't. It actually got put on me by some, you know, really evil motherfuckers. Just saying that just to scare the motherfucker. But as I was saying before,
Who are you talking to? Nobody?
so anyways, as I was saying before, my poor dad was set to be locked in the hell realm. Schizophrenia. No, that's schizophrenia due to drugs. That's what happens when you got drugs in your system. I don't fuck with drugs. Now, anyways, from what I understand, knocking on that bitch's door asking for money, and she be having druggies over and shit, getting threatening with her and everything else. So yeah, so anyways, let's try to get this man his money.